2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Project Egg Show. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of having Ellie Briscoe back on the show. Second time, you're a veteran, one of the only in the history of Project Egg thus far to make a second appearance on the show. So welcome back.
Awesome. I feel special. Thank you.
Awesome. So it's a little bit different for those of you who are watching and listening because this is the second episode. And if you haven't caught the first one, you have got to go check that out. Absolutely go check that out. It's a riveting narrative of Ellie's life. And, we really dug into a lot of mindset, a lot of really interesting things. So, what we kind of talked about a little bit beforehand was catching everybody up on what you've been doing since the last show, and then really diving deep into all the new things that you've learned and all the ways that you've grown and take it from there. So what's your story from then until now?
So really from the start of last year, it was around like January last year, I was making $50,000 to $60,000 a month. And I was living in a multi-million-dollar property, beautiful dream house overlooking the trees and the hills, and had kangaroos all around my house. And it was just beautiful, beautiful place. I was making a lot of money, more than I'd ever made in my life, was traveling all around the world. I went to Richard Branson's island and got to spend 5 days with him and a group of entrepreneurs. I was in high-level masterminds. I basically looked like I was in a way living my dream life. But at night, I was watching shows on Netflix with my partner at the time to avoid having conversation with him because I knew something was wrong but was in denial about it. And I was having panic attacks. My heart would be racing for no reason. It felt like no reason. And I would cry for what I thought was no reason as well. And I was like, what's going on with me? And then I ran a retreat in February last year in Fiji. And I had amazing, amazing clients there. We were living in this beautiful place up on top of a hill overlooking the ocean and like real open plan, just a beautiful space. And it was about learning how to get paid speaking gigs, basically learning how to be a speaker. But there was a lot of mindset stuff there, a lot of emotional clearing. And you could literally feel the energy in the house. I could feel everyone else's energy and my own. And everyone, including myself, was having massive shifts. And I realized in that moment, in the coming weeks, that I wasn't happy in my relationship, that it looked like I had everything on the outside, but inside I was pushing too much. I needed to slow down. I was focusing all in on the money and the business success and escaping into that, and wasn't dealing with my own personal life and having quality time with my kids or dealing with my relationship. And so I realized that I needed to leave that relationship and I needed some drastic changes in my life. And so shortly after that, I ended my 9-year relationship. I've got 2 children with him, and I left that house, that dream house. I ended up selling most of my possessions, my car, had to let go of my cat, unfortunately, and let go of a lot of programs in my business as well, and a lot of clients that weren't in alignment anymore. And I ended up moving over the other side of the world to Portugal. My ex is Portuguese. And so we moved there not knowing how long we were staying there for. It was supposed to be 6 months. And then my ex wouldn't put anything in place of like what's happening with the kids, what's happening with our life. And my business was just going down, the income wise, and because I was doing this deep inner journey on myself. I went to a shaman. I did a lot of personal development. I did a lot of letting go processes. And I really rewrote what I believed to be true about the world, about business, about money, about success, about parenting, relationships, hustle mentality, like so many things. I was like, oh, all these things that I thought were true about the world or about myself, it's like, it's not actually true. And it's like, who am I now? And what do I want from life? And so I let go and I let go and I let go. And I told myself, I'm not going to put new things out there if I'm not 100% clear on what it is I want to do. And so my business, I did make a lot less money last year, but that was on purpose. That was intentional. And my kids were taken away from me for a few months last year, with issues with my ex, and that was very stressful. But I decided to play the long game with my children, with money, with business, with life in general. And by playing the long game, that meant that I had to go with making less money for a little while. It meant that I had to bite my tongue when all I wanted to do was lash out at my ex at times and have a fight with him. And I was patient, and I decided to play the long game, even though it was hard in certain times. I then ended up getting everything that I wanted very, very quickly. And so it came to February, March this year, so probably in exactly a year actually after. And all the questions I'd been asking myself about who am I now? What do I want from life? What do I want to do in business? It all became clear. And that was when I was at a practitioner training for a modality that I use. I was support crew there, and I had massive shifts. And my new partner, he was there with me learning to be a practitioner of this modality. And so in that moment, I really opened my heart up more. I opened up to receiving more love and being more open myself, and really just let go. And everything became clear on business and the next stages. So me and my partner, we've been together a year and a half now. And we started this new business together called Conscious Hustlers. And with Conscious Hustlers, we're helping business owners we're working with startups to multi-million-dollar companies and everything in between. And we help these people who have conscious businesses to be able to connect to their legacy, to something way bigger than themselves, and really make a massive impact in the world. And we do that by helping them let go of any of the blocks that are in their way, whether it's mindset blocks or strategic blocks around doing everything themselves, creating systems and structure, more cash flow, more team, all that kind of stuff. So, it's similar to what I was doing before, but it's also very different. And that all clicked in place. And in our first month of this new business, we hit a 6-figure run rate. And we're on track in less than 6 months to hit a multi-6-figure run rate. So it was like, I had to take that year to then be able to have things happen like that,
Wow. That's incredible to me, how it went from, it seems like you were up here, but really there were some internal things that just had to get through and that had to be addressed. I mean, there's no way around those sorts of things. And then it seems like you kind of, you went down for a bit and you were working on yourself. Maybe down's the wrong word, but it seems like it was a roller. It seems like exactly. And that's amazing how taking the long-term approach, and I am such a fan of the long-term approach. I mean, Warren Buffett's got it figured out clearly, but his approach to investing is the same. It's a long-term approach, because then you allow your efforts and your investments and your resources to compound over time, start working with you. But that's amazing how you took the long-term approach, you committed to it, and then things shot up almost instantaneously. That's amazing.
Exactly. And, I still, at the moment, I kind of slipped back a little bit into working a bit too much, but I've just hired 4 new team members in the last few weeks. And I know that I've got to do a bit of extra work right now to be able to let go of more things. So I'm constantly going, something that I feel like, I can just do that quickly. Like, for example, when I'm on a coaching call with a client, I will send them the recording, the Zoom recording, and the call notes. And the other day I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. And so instead I uploaded the call to cloud instead of my laptop. And I put the notes into a email draft, and my assistant goes in and she finds the draft, she adds the recording from the cloud, and she sends it out to them. And it's like little things like that are getting done, and much bigger things as well, without me having to do them anymore, which has opened me up to be able to make more money, support my clients more, and really think about the big picture. and I'm going to continue stepping up into the bigger picture, into the CEO, really, so that all that other stuff is not being done by me.
So I'm curious, and I mean, this is very vulnerable stuff that we're talking about here. So I want to acknowledge your courage and, being open to talk about it. What were some of those things that were going on inside that you really had to work through? And I know we talked about it a little bit, but I mean, I want to get to the root of it, because I know that, you know, if you're going through that and you had those things that you were showing with other people are definitely going through it now, and either now or they will be going through it at some point in time. So what were those things that you really had to work through, and what were the things that were really holding you back?
Yeah. I guess the biggest piece that comes up is the escaping into business, or escaping into the areas where I feel strong and powerful and successful. And I still do this from time to time. I'm a lot better with it. But it's like we don't just work on something and it's like solved forever. Whenever we're stepping up, if we're, stepping into a place where we've got a big goal or we want to get better at something, all our old shit's going to kind of pop up again. And it's like, oh, I thought I dealt with this. And it's like, it's not that you haven't dealt with it. It's like you're going deeper to get even better at it. And so that's been showing up for me again in the last couple of days, honestly. And it's looking at, okay, I feel like I can make money very easily. I love making sales. I love helping people. I do feel very successful and powerful and strong and confident in business. It's an area that I kind of do naturally. Whereas another area of my life, relationships and communication, is really hard for me. And it's funny because we have these stereotypes of men and women of like, oh, women are so emotional and, they can communicate and express themselves. But I've never felt like that. And so I've always felt like I don't know myself, or in the past, or like I'm more like the boys or whatever when I was a teenager. And I've attracted in this partner into my life who's amazing at expressing himself, who is so great with communication in relationships and in business. And one of his highest priorities in life is relationships. And so it's called me to step up to a higher level with all of that. But then sometimes, especially when I'm busy, I can get drawn back into, but we've got to make money. We've got to train this team up. We've got to coach the clients. And then I'm not doing enough of the other stuff, especially when I feel like things are going well. So a lot of the time I'll go to this place where I'm like, oh, our relationship's good, so I don't need to work on it. And it's like, just because something's good doesn't mean we stop working on it, because then we go backwards. It's like, oh, sales are good. I've got enough money in the bank right now, so I'm not going to make any more sales. Well, then you're going to probably have clients drop off. You're going to spend more money, and you're not going to be moving forwards. So I'm really bringing up that awareness for myself at the moment around, okay, I need to slow down more. I need to work on my communication at a deeper level. I need to work on my relationships at a deeper level, and really holding space and supporting the people I love, and not just jump into work or being busy. And really having quality time with the people that I love as well, rather than just spending all my time with them, but them not really feeling loved and supported at the level that I know in my head that I do. And that shows up through communication, through quality time in different areas as well.
It's fascinating to me how, after you've made a ton of money multiple times, I mean, throughout your life, and you know, that's awesome, by the way. I'm not trying to detract from that at all. That's amazing. But it's interesting how now you're talking about the importance of the other stuff, and it almost seems like, let's say you're killing it at one end, but then this other end is really dragging you down. It's going to bring the whole system down, and
Yeah.
it's not gonna allow you to go to the heights that you can, because you may be up here in business, but if you're down here, that may be stopping you from going like way up there in business, but you just don't know because you're being dragged down by one side.
Exactly. I think if you're constantly fighting with your partner or yelling at your kids or your house is a mess, you're not going to have the space in your head or in your life to be able to bring more in. It's like when we're living in chaos, or we'll have a lack of structure or a lack of like connection as well, we're not going to get the results that we want in our business. And so when you have something I've really been working on the last two months or so since I've been back in Australia, is really creating structure and routine and organization in the household. So my kids have a morning and evening routine that my partner created, and something I've been doing for them or with them for years, they now do by themselves. They wake up in the morning, they make their bed, they get dressed for school. My daughter's been making scrambled eggs and veggies for breakfast. And I'm like, what the hell? I didn't know you could do that, for her and her brother. And they're doing all these things without needing me to do it. And so that gives me more time in my morning and my evening for myself. And I'm spending quality time with them, not just telling them to get these jobs done. So by doing that, and then I got all my property moved into state, so I have it all. We're in a beautiful house, 2-minute walk from the beach. I finally have some stability that I hadn't had for 18 months. I was literally living in Airbnbs for 18 months around the world. And so to be in one spot and have that structure with myself, the business, my relationship, my kids, it's really created more space and energy to bring more in. And there's actually 3 key areas I'm really focused on at the moment. It's time, energy, and money. And so I ask myself sometimes, is this thing or this person bringing me more time, energy, and money? Or is it taking my time, energy, and money? And so if it's like for a team member example, if a team member is taking up all your time, asking all these questions, but not taking initiative, not getting the job done, they're costing you more money because they're not being efficient on doing it properly. And it's costing you energy because you're constantly having to micromanage or, have conversations with someone else in the business about, oh, this person's not doing their job properly. Then they're detracting from those 3 areas. Instead, a team member should be giving you more time, giving you more energy, and making you money. And so if they're taking away from those 3 areas, then they probably have to go, or you need to put boundaries in place. Same with clients, same with other relationships, same with like any project you're completing or anything in life. So that's 3 things I've really been focused on lately as well.
I love that. And see, I think this is such an important thing to talk about the clients, like who you decide to work with, because you may be getting, let's just say, throw out a random number, and it's coming from absolutely nowhere, but let's say you're charging $850 a month for whatever. And one client is going to call you every day, email you constantly. They refuse to Google things. They're just sucking up your time and energy, and you're making the same money versus a client who they're a rock star and they're really like using the service or the product, whatever. And they ask you for help when they actually need it, when they've already exhausted the other options. Like one of them's a way better $850 to get, like a way better one. And I feel like so many people are, and I've been in this place myself. So, I'll be the first one to call myself out on it. But a lot of times I feel like we're tempted to take that money because it's there instead of saying, is this really like the right fit? Is it the right fit?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? When I started up doing this stuff again, doing coaching, I kind of pulled everything back, and I really only had a couple of clients left that I was coaching one-on-one. And when I was figuring everything out that I wanted to do. And when I decided, no, I'm going to bring on this many one-on-one clients, I'm going to put these offerings out there and whatever, I started off with lower amounts to really get that confidence back again, because my confidence was knocked for a little while there, from, not working much and doing all this inner work, but I didn't feel successful, and at times felt like a bit of a failure because I was like, oh shit, I'm not making the money that I was making before. And so I did mindset work on that. But I also started off and going, okay, well, a low-end offering, which has no one-on-one, that started off at $100 a month just to get the first few people in. Then it went up to $200, then it went up to $250. Then with my one-on-one coaching, I took some people on at $800 a month. So that's funny you brought up $850 because it's very similar. I started off with some people at $800. I filled up a few spots at that, and I was like, oh, that's too cheap now. Put it up to $1,000. Then I put it up to $2,000. Then I put it up to $2,300. For actually less than what I was originally doing, less calls, but they get more of a support as the whole package now. But my worth increased and my time decreased. And I was like, well, I love one-on-one coaching, but if I do too much of it, I'm not able to work on growing the business. And so my prices continue to go up. And that high level offering that's currently around 2,300, it's 2,300. I'm going to probably put that up to 4,000 a month because I don't want to be doing a heap more one-on-one. And then we have another offering that we're doing that started at 1,000 and now it's 1,500. And then that'll probably go up even more as well. So it's like, I think it's okay to start with a lower price. It's not like, oh, I'm worthy, so I'm going to charge $10,000 a month because I'm worth it. There's one part of like believing that you're worth it, which is awesome and so important. But the other part is actually testing the market and getting the people in at that price point. You can believe you're worth $10 million a month, but is someone going to pay it? If you find the right person, probably, and have the right offering. But that's why if you start with an amount that's like a little bit outside your comfort zone, but not so much that you're going to discount or not be confident in selling it, then that's the perfect price to start with. And then as you fill that up and gain more confidence and get awesome results, then you put it up and you just keep putting it up. And especially as you have less time as well. But I think that's a really good way to do it. And most people don't see that. It's like believing the worth, then testing the market, getting the people in, and then upping it from there.
That's brilliant because it's just like and I'm a fisherman. So, but I grew up fishing all the time. So, that's what it's like in my mind. You're not going to take the biggest bait you have to test out a new spot. That doesn't make any sense. You're going to throw the little ones out first, test it, make sure you have some fish, and work your way up. I mean, you want to create that feeding frenzy and make sure that there's a whole school of fish out there, not just the one or two. I mean, you have to make sure something's there to bite. Then you want to make sure there's a big enough thing to really like go into it all the way. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. And naturally with supply and demand, like as your supply of time starts here and goes down and the demand comes up, like the price has to go up. I mean, just organically.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't realize there's only one of you and there's so many people out there that need your help. So you only have so much time. And if you're filling all of that time with one-on-one coaching or group coaching, you're not going to have any time to actually grow the business and you actually stay stuck. You stay stuck at a certain level and you can maybe get to 10,000, maybe even 20,000 a month. But then after that, it's actually about working less and building team and putting systems in place so you can be the one that's going, okay, well, what's the next step? And if you don't have the time, if you're constantly working in the business, you don't have the space in your head to realize what those next steps are and what are the next opportunities and ideas and things that you'd love to do.
That's brilliant. So when, and I'm curious to learn about, how you ramp things up. When you first start with a new offering, I'm sure there's always a few people that in your mind, you're like, oh, this will be perfect for them. And so you go reach out to them and you're like, hey, I'm doing this new thing. You want to rock and roll. And so, I feel like the first couple of sales, that's kind of a gimme because you might be doing a lower price, these people. So, that's kind of shooting fish in a barrel. But once you get through those, like the super low hanging fruit, then where do you go? How do you ramp things up after that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we put out that initial offering at the 100 a month and then put the price up, that's for our program called Conscious Hustlers. And it's a low end kind of membership that's for people who are either in startup or maybe making around, 5K a month and they want to get to 10K a month. Now, there are other people further along in that offering, but that's the main kind of premise of it. And it's really getting them, laying the solid foundations in place, getting them to know themselves, working on their mindset, their strategy and structure, and really creating solid foundations for a bigger business, a big company. So when I went to that practitioner training as support crew in end of February, there were 60 people in the room. And I connected in with every single one of those people. Now, I didn't go in there strategically and be like, oh, I'm going to sell these people afterwards. I went in there to get a massive transformation for myself and to support the owner of the company because I believe in the work. But then I also was having great chats with people in the room, and I was helping people in the room for free, doing like an anxiety exercise with them, which only takes a few minutes, but it's super powerful. And I was having great conversations with people and connecting and networking with all these people. Now, in the couple of weeks after that event, we ended up signing up 30 people, and about 20 of them, or maybe 10 to 15 at first, but then more over time, were from that community. So if you are in a community, whether online or offline, where it's got your ideal clients, but it's people that could potentially be clients, friends, team members, joint venture partners, whatever it is, like start getting in front of those people online and offline, because you will make money and you know that you need to help, they need your help. So when we started off that low end offering, basically a lot of those people signed up from that community. And then we would share, when we get on a group call, we'd share a photo and they'd share these photos around. And everyone would see all these people they know on this call. And they're like, oh, I want to be part of that. I want to be with all those people. And then everyone, without us even asking, was just raving about it. They were like, I love this. It's like, I feel like I belong. I'm part of a family. I've gotten these results. And we started getting tagged in groups. There's a group here. It's an Australian group called Like-Minded Bitches Drinking Wine. And it's got over 100,000 women, female entrepreneurs in there. And literally my clients, anytime someone asks for a business coach, I get tagged in there. So it's like that created the momentum of having so many people sign up at once, putting the photos around everywhere, putting out the results, getting tagged in things. That really created the momentum for that offering. Now, then when I put out my one-on-one offering, it was pretty much what you said of that low-hanging fruit. And it's like, okay, who do I want to step up to do some one-on-one, or who are the people I've, worked with before, and really kind of bringing them in because there were limited spots. Now, what we're doing for another option at the moment, we have another program called Legacy. And Legacy is for the people who are already at around 6 figures and they want to grow to multi-6 or 7 and beyond. Now, we've got people in there that are at 6, multi-6, and even up to 1.5 mil. And it's people who really want to create, not be doing everything themselves anymore, and create freedom and really tie into making a massive impact in the world. Now, with this offering, we've gotten, I think, 7 or 8 people in there so far. And some of those were people where I was like, they were in the lower levels and I was like, no, they need to do something more. So it's like warming up those people to show them, hey, you need this. And then kind of bringing in other people from people I've worked with in the past, and different things like that. So that's happened pretty organically so far. Now, what we're about to put in place is we have a marketing strategy with a marketing manager, where she's doing up a new website, branding, membership site, and she's also going to be setting up messenger bots, 5-day free challenge, all these different things that she's great at. So, and then paid advertising and things like that on Facebook. Now, separate from that, the organic strategy, something I'm working on at the moment, is looking at, okay, who are the ideal clients for Legacy? What are their pain points and challenges? What are the outcomes and goals that they have? And then what are the topics from my own story, from client results, from whatever, that I can talk about in live streams, in interviews, in Facebook posts, in emails, on my messenger bot, in my free challenge, in all of those things. Maybe doing I wrote this down yesterday, a masterclass that's like, hey, this is this big, massive, awesome training that solves your exact problem. So putting all of that together at the moment for a really specific strategy, going deep into exactly where they're at and where they want to be.
That's awesome. So it seems like it's getting people in on kind of the ground floor and giving them such a valuable experience, such a meaningful experience that they just can't help but share, and doing that enough to where it almost creates its own buzz. And then from the group, hand select the people who you're like, okay, you kind of like tap them and say, okay, you need more, you need to level up, you're ready, and then bring the next level. And then you just kind of keep climbing. And as people show you that they're ready for that next level, then you kind of tap them and bring them up. And it's almost like a ladder, like not a funnel where they're all coming down, but like a ladder where you're bringing them up.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's funny? I kind of make a joke about this sometimes. My current partner, he was actually a client beforehand. And so he watched all my free stuff. He did my low end, my mid, my high, came to my retreats, and he ended up being my partner. And that's funny because it's like, he really went through all the different levels. Now, when we actually met and we were like, oh, whoa, like we had this deep connection, we didn't have that when he was my client. He was just like, yeah, he's a nice guy and I like working with him. There was nothing going on there. And then when we met face to face, it was like, oh shit. Like we just like had this deep connection. And then he stopped being a client and ended up being my partner, followed me around the world for 6 months. And we have this life together and business together now. But I'd like to joke about that.
I mean, he definitely did go through all the rungs of the ladder there.
I'm like, only one spot for the top
one. That's really like a very limited time offer where there will not be any more. So I'm curious now, you've been doing all this work and you've had this radical transformation. So I think it's just fascinating. But what questions are you really working with now? Like, what are those inner questions that, because it seems like you've done a lot of inner work. What's the next frontier? What are those next questions that you've gotten through the old ones, and it's like now you can ask better questions? What are those?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in my personal life, it's what I was speaking about before around going deeper on communication and relationship stuff, being able to be softer and hold space and not go into my logical brain of like, oh, I can see this, this, and this. And when someone just probably needs a hug or, needs whatever. So I'm working on that in my personal life and really being able to slow down more and practice even more self-care and look after myself. And then from a business perspective, it's really what else can I hand over? And just delegating more and more to team. I've created an onboarding process for every single role in the business and continue to do that. So I know that each week for 3 months, when someone comes on, they're doing this training this week, they need this support this week, and to be able to fully do their job. So finishing that off. And then thinking even bigger, really. It's like, I guess, asking journaling questions around what do I really want, and looking at, okay, what do I want and when can that happen? Because in the past, I had a bit of FOMO. If I had an idea of or for a while, it's like, I want to go to Hawaii, because I went to Hawaii 4 times within like 2 or 3 years, and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite places in the world. So in the past, I would have been like, I want to go to Hawaii, and then I'd book a flight, and I'd just go. Whereas now it's thinking again of that long term, playing the long game and going, okay, yeah, I do need a holiday. I do really want to go. But looking at the numbers and what fits in and when, and also time-wise and energy-wise as well. And so something that I do is like I work in 90-day cycles. So business works in 90-day cycles. So every 90 days, you should have a recharge for at least 3 to 5 days where you just completely switch off, unwind, meditate, journal, lay by the beach, whatever it is for the first couple of days. And then after that, reflect on the 90 days you've just done. What went well? Did you hit your targets? Why not? Where did you face challenge? Where did you win? And then planning the next 90 days. And then really letting go of any mindset blocks to achieve that, visualizing, putting the strategy in place. So I'm currently putting all of those blocks into my calendar. I did one about 2 months ago when I was in Portugal. I went off to one of the islands by myself, and I went and climbed a volcano. I ate a stew that was cooked underground from the volcano. I went horse riding, and I went to the hot springs, and it was just beautiful. So, but then I guess business-wise as well, it's really looking at really big companies and getting ideas from that, because I found that because we're growing so quickly, once one thing gets sorted, it opens us up to see, oh, we could actually track these numbers, or we could bring this team member on, or we could do this project. So it's really opening us up to be able to see more opportunities.
So you mentioned thinking bigger, and I think about this all the time. Like, I try to challenge myself to think bigger, almost to like a ridiculous, I mean, not almost, definitely to like a ridiculous level, to the point where I have goals like in my journal that I bring with me everywhere, and I try to write in all the time, that like scare me, and that sometimes I have difficulty talking about it with other people because of how scary it is, and that's how I know it's a good goal, right? But like, is there a limit? Like, is there a limit to how big we should think in your opinion?
I don't think there's a limit at all. I think sometimes the thing that holds people back is that, and especially, so me and my partner, we created this planning system that we've been doing with clients. We've done it with about 20, 30 people so far. And basically what we do is we connect into the big picture legacy. So when you're dead and gone, what is it that you want to leave behind? You know, what do you want people saying about you? What do you want to be ongoing projects or different things that are still growing when you're gone, you know? And then we work out the 10-year mission of like, okay, in the next 10 years, where do you want to be? And then we break it down into annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily. Now, some people will think really, really big picture, and then they'll get overwhelmed and be like, for example, one client, she wanted to create a fitness center that had all these different things for mums, and it had a creche that was all day and all these different things going on. It was a great idea. But then she started getting overwhelmed going, oh, what's the first step? And it's like, if that's the big picture 10-year thing or even legacy thing, you don't need to know the first step. You don't even need to start working on it right now necessarily. It's just expanding this and putting it out there and then just dropping it into the universe and just knowing that, okay, I'm thinking about that, I'm visualizing it, so I'm going to attract in some things that are working towards that. It's the 1-year things that you need to be working towards and that you need to be specific with. And that 1 year should be working towards the 10-year, and then the 10-year towards the legacy. But when we're thinking really, really big, we don't need to do it right now. You've got your whole life, you know? And that's where some people get held back, is they're thinking so big and they think they've got to do it now. Other people don't think big enough. And so it's getting them to expand that and start thinking bigger. But it's only in the like daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually that we're really being very specific. So I have a client that sells high-end wedding dresses for like 20, 30 grand plus. And she has a factory she works with in India. One of her big goals is to have her own factory in India, and to make that very conscious and ethical and fair trade and all of that. And she wants to have her own designer clothes line that's in department stores internationally. I have other clients I have one client who's working on an animal sanctuary. That was her 10-year goal. I helped her start that within a year. She sold her house in England, moved to Portugal, and they've been building on this land where they're going to have animals there, and a water park, and like kind of glamping tents and also cabins for people to come and have retreats and things like that there. So with her example, that's like big, you know, having your own water park and all of those things, but she is working on it already. So they're, you know, making sure there's running water on the land. She's living on the land in a glamping tent. She's not going, oh, I've got to build a water slide right now, but she's putting the smaller steps in place. And this is something I did years ago as well, where I had this idea that I wanted to run international retreats. But I was like, oh, but that feels really big and really scary. And I don't even know anyone that would pay that amount of money and come and do that. So I was given the advice years ago, this was probably 2014 maybe, and someone said, just start with something small. And so what I started with was running face-to-face one-day VIP days. And I also used to do seminars and workshops and webinars, and it's all, you know, similar kind of things. Now that's a smaller scale of an international retreat. And by doing that smaller scale, I built my confidence. I practiced the structure of what I wanted it to look like and the logistics of, you know, what it took to set that up. And I started really building the community and also the need for it. And those people and also with online masterminds and things like that and getting people awesome results. Then when I started doing international retreats, I already had that pool of people that had been getting results, had been doing things with me that wanted to do that. So it was an easy sell. And I've now run retreats in Australia, Bali, Thailand, Fiji, and Hawaii. So it's something that I thought was like impossible years ago. I've now run 5 of them.
That's amazing. So it seems like we're setting these humongous goals, which it's good. That's a really good thing. It's fairly important. And we're putting it out there. We're letting it marinate or manifest itself, whatever the right word is.
Yeah.
And then we're figuring out, okay, well, what do we need to do in 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, you know, tomorrow? And then we're taking these little actions today and focusing on the annual, the quarterly, the monthly, the weekly, the daily. And by focusing on that, but still keeping the big picture in mind and checking in from time to time, but not like solely focusing on that, really focusing on the specifics, that gives us it makes it palatable enough to where we can do it. And then over the course, we can build that momentum and build and build and build. And then we'll get to those bigger goals because we focus on the smaller ones.
Exactly.
Right?
And there's, just to clarify as well, because I mentioned a few different things that might be confusing, there's kind of 3 ways we can go about that. One is you've got this big, massive goal, but it's actually not something you're going to work on yet. And you're just kind of thinking and brainstorming and getting excited and visualizing it and then just putting it out there and not actually doing anything to work towards it yet. It's like something that's maybe setting up an education system for children that's like really conscious, you know, and you want to create this whole school system. That's one of my things, where I want to have a space where kids and adults can come to learn and run retreats and do different things from it. Now that's a big goal, but it's not something I'm working on right now. It's not something I even need to put steps in place for, but I'm just putting it out there. Now, so that's one way to do it. Now, another way is like that client who's like, I want an animal sanctuary, so I'm going to do the smaller things that build up to having all of the things for that. So that's the second way. And then the third way is the retreat example of going, okay, I'm not going to go and do an international retreat straight away, but what's a smaller version of that? So like a workshop or a VIP day or whatever to build up to the bigger thing.
That makes a lot more sense.
Mm.
So it's either having that goal, but not really working towards it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Having the goal and taking little bitty steps to get there, or having the goal and then doing a miniature version of it and like working your way up.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now that makes a lot of sense. Because, you know, one of the things that so resonates in my mind, because, you know, when I was in college, and, you know, not like I'm that much removed from college, but like a couple of years ago, I was helping, you know, some of my friends. We were working together and we launched a music festival in New Orleans. And it was one of the most fun projects I've ever worked on, ever.
That's
It was
cool.
so cool, so
Yeah.
cool. And I could talk about it forever, but I'll leave it at that. And once we pulled it off and we did it for a couple of years, it was so much fun.
Mm,
I had this crazy idea in my mind,
mm,
and I was like, okay, if we could do this, like a bunch of 20-year-olds who we were responsible at that point,
mm,
so like, and we were competent and capable, so
yeah.
it's not like we were a bunch of dummies running around doing it, but we're like, okay, if we can do this with
Mm,
this amount of manpower and these
mm,
resources,
mm,
like I thought in my mind, what else could we do?
yeah.
And what popped in my mind, it was crazy. I can't believe I'm
Mm,
saying this out loud, but I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to have the first ever music festival on the moon? Like
that's cool.
literally have like a space fest, right? And I
Yeah.
pictured like this like biodome that, so we
Yeah.
could breathe and like so
Yeah.
there'd
Yeah.
be gravity, all
Yeah.
that fun
Kind of
stuff.
important.
But like, yeah, pretty important stuff. But I was just thinking like, well, the music festival that we did, that was a mini version of what I was talking about. And
Yeah.
it really just like clicked in my mind. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of
Yeah. Yeah. And some of these things like that might actually happen, and other things might just be like a crazy idea that never happens. But just getting yourself to think of these ideas expands your mindset, your thinking, and attracts more in. And it's like whatever we think about, we create belief systems around, and we take actions from that place. And we also are able to see from our reticular activation the things that we're thinking about. So, say you've just bought a red car, you're going to see red cars everywhere. Say you've just had a baby, you're going to start feeling like everyone's having babies. And same in business. So, if we're focusing on like, I want to have a music festival on the moon, or I want to have, $100,000 business or $1 million business or an animal sanctuary or whatever it is, like you'll start finding people that also have those same dreams. You'll start talking about it. You'll start creating things that are in alignment with that and attracting the opportunities and people in that make it possible.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Even from the example you just gave, it made me think. One of my old clients is an artist. She sings and raps, and she's recording her new album at the moment in New Orleans. And you just brought that area up, so it's like, oh, that's interesting. And we connect these pieces in our brain when we hear stories from people.
Yeah, exactly. And I love what you said about like when you're on, it's almost like when you're on that level of a consciousness, you start to recognize the things that you didn't see before. And
Yeah.
I really, really think that that holds true. Like when you fix something in your mind and you're like, I am going to have this, I'm
Mm,
going to accomplish this. This is something
mm,
that I am going to do, and it's a must. And it
mm.
is like that you have raised your standards to where that is what you're achieving. You
Yeah.
start to see, and I'm t- I can only talk from experience here,
Mm,
right? But this has happened so many times where when you make that commitment and you're like, all right, this is happening,
mm.
you start to see the opportunities around you. And it's like, oh, well, that has always been there, but I didn't really see it in that way before. But it's like, oh, yeah, that's perfect. That's a
Exactly.
no brainer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, that's a really good point. It's that commitment of committing, like, yes, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going all in. And again, to tie in some of the things we were talking about before, creating the space for that. So having structure in your personal life, having structure in your business, you have the space to be able to see those things. If you're constantly busy, if you're not slowing down and hearing your own voice, you don't get to think of these things and you don't get to see them. And this has happened for me so much lately, where I felt like with this new offering, for example, with Legacy, I wasn't 100% committed and connected to it. There was the missing piece. I hadn't fully kind of gone all in with it. And when I did go all in with it, I signed up like 7 or 8 people like that, you know. And even when I was sick the other week, I had the flu. I ended up signing up a few people even when I was starting to get sick, and then I took a few days off. And I was like, I've just made all this money this week, signed up all these people, had amazing things happening, and I feel like I'm at my worst right now. And it didn't feel hard. And it was just that commitment and connection to, okay, who is this for? What's it about? And yes, I'm going to make this happen now. And creating the structure for those people to be able to come in and be able to see those people.
Oh, definitely. And I think it's also a factor of, if you're really committed to something, other people can tell, like they can feel it. And it's not even, sometimes it's very tangible. Like, do you care enough to set up the website that can accept the payment from the people who are trying to pay you money to work with you? Or is it, do they get this sense from you, or do they get the feeling that you're in it to win it, and that you're on this mission and you're committed? Like, there are so many times where I've wanted to work with people purely because of how passionate they were about the thing that they were working on. I'm like, I want to help you. I don't know a thing about it, but I'll find a way to help. And I want to do it just because I believe in you. And it's like, but people can feel that. And if you're not all the way committed, there's no way that, like, if you don't believe in it, how can anybody else?
Exactly. They feel your energy and the excitement behind it. It's like, you could write copy for something and it could be the exact same words, and you could put it up from an energy of like, oh, I better put this up because I've got to make some money and I've got to do this task, but you're feeling a bit uninspired or flat, or just, you've had some crap going on in your personal life or whatever, and that's when you write it from that place. Or you could do a meditation or a visualization and get yourself in state before writing it, and really be writing it from a place of inspiration and flow and excitement, and like, whoa, I can really help these people, and I wish I'd had this program for myself, and really connect into like all the people you're going to help with it and how you can help them and that they need it. And you write it from that place. People feel that. They feel it through your words. They feel it through if you're speaking on a live stream, they can see it in your face. I've had a lot of people telling me lately that I look like I'm glowing. Like, people notice things, whether consciously or subconsciously. And even on a subconscious level, say someone's never done any personal development and they're not in touch with any of this stuff, they still notice it subconsciously. And they'll go, oh yeah, I didn't buy that, just didn't feel right. And so it's got to strategically, logistically make sense, but it's got to have that right feeling and energy behind it as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think it all comes back to, you can't really bring that energy and you can't bring the feeling and bring it. I mean, because you really got to bring it, but you can't bring it if all the other things in your life are out of whack. And if you haven't done those difficult things of asking yourself the tough questions, working through the other areas, because I mean, everything matters. It really does. Like, from the music you listen to the things that you choose to watch or don't watch, or the food that you put in your body, like it all matters. It really does. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, the other night I stayed up till 3 a.m. And it was because I got the kids to bed, and then me and my partner worked together for 2 hours. And then after that, we just wanted to chill out and cuddle and spend some time together. And we're rewatching Breaking Bad together. We've both watched it separately years ago. And we're like, let's watch it together. But then one episode, I started falling asleep, and then I woke back up, and then I was just awake. And then I couldn't get to sleep. And I was up till 3 a.m. Now, I only got 4 hours sleep. My kids woke me up at 7. And I then, had a lot of things to do yesterday, and I ended up having a bit of confrontation with my partner because, I was tired. I ended up not getting enough rest for myself. I ended up feeling sick. Like, all these things kind of spiraled because I hadn't had enough sleep, and I didn't speak up and have that boundary of, no, I'm going to go to bed earlier, because I did want to spend time with my partner. Now, last night, I went to bed super early. I went to bed at 9. I got 9 hours sleep. I woke up a total different person. Already this morning, I've, done this interview with you. I've had a call with my team, one of my team members. I've done a coaching call with a client. I got my kids ready for school. I've done a lot this morning, but it doesn't feel like a drain of energy. It's all firing me up and feeling really good because I made sure I got the sleep that I needed. And so, even on a basic level, we need to have a clear morning and evening routine. And the evening routine needs to be switching off at a certain time and getting enough sleep, and also reflecting on the day. Because if we get to the end of the day, particularly if we stay up too late, we can start to get in a negative loop of like, oh, I'm not making enough money, or checking the bank account, or causing an argument with someone, or worrying about negative things that might actually be true, but they're also not, because it's like we're in a headspace where we don't know what's true. But what we want to do instead at the end of the day is getting to bed earlier and all of that, but then reflecting on the day, what went well today? What am I grateful for? What are my top 3 priorities for tomorrow? So you're connecting into that before going to sleep. And then in the morning, your morning routine is all about building your energy for the day. And the way that I do it, and I'm not perfect with this, it's something I'm working on at the moment, but the way I do it for myself and what I'm working on and teaching clients as well, is you want to first give back to yourself. So that's where you drink some water or like a green juice or something like that, but definitely water, like hydrate yourself, and then move your body in some shape or form. So you're switching on your physiology, your physical body. And that's either stretching, yoga, weights, a walk, a circuit, whatever it is. And then after that, connect in with yourself from a mental level. So that's where you can do some journaling, you can meditate, and you're connecting into, you could read out your big picture mission or legacy to yourself. You could fill out some questions that I get my clients to do about how am I feeling? How do I want to feel? What's my intention for today? Looking over your top 3, looking over your goals, your numbers, all of that. And then connect in with someone else. So whether that's doing a live stream, getting on a sales call, a coaching call, calling a friend, having some kind of high level conversation that really pumps you up and makes you feel good. And, anytime I'm doing a coaching call or an interview or talking to my mom or, people who are on my wavelength, I get ideas. And everything that I'm saying, I'm actually speaking to myself as well. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like I get to process things through speaking it out. So that's the way I like to do the morning and evening routine.
That's awesome. That's
Mm.
awesome. Well, Ellie, I want to thank you so, so much for coming back on the show for round 2. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Seriously, it's always so much fun talking to you, and it's always very special to have these interactions. So I'm grateful you could fit it in, and I'm so very appreciative. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome. And so everybody who's watching, listening, I want to thank y'all also because, well, y'all just rock and
Mm.
y'all are phenomenal people. And I know that y'all are changing the world out there. And so I'm so grateful that y'all would take a little bit of time to share with us and be a part of this experience. And,
Mm.
I love y'all very much. So thank y'all. Ellie, thank you. And I will see y'all on the next episode. Take care now.